welcome into First Take. Christine Williamson here, filling in for Molly. We have a cast of characters coming through, starting with myself and Bart Scott. Stephen A. Smith will be here shortly. RC will be here shortly. We're actually going to start out in LA, where Stephen A. is, the city of angels, because Baker Mayfield, playing for the Rams just 2 days after being claimed on waivers, helped his new team snap a 6-game losing streak with a 17-16 comeback dub over the Las Vegas Raiders. The Rams trailed by as much as 13 points in the fourth quarter. Mayfield led the team on a 98-yard game-winning drive that ended with a 23-yard touchdown pass to Van Jefferson with 10 seconds remaining. Bake, how are you feeling after that win?
Right now, I just got a lot of emotions, but I'm really, really blessed, and I'm really thankful right now, especially just the guys here that welcome me in and help me, do the crash course here. I don't know if you can write it any better than that. Obviously, we'd like to be a little bit more stress-free, but it's a pretty damn good story, I'll be honest with you. So it's special.
All right, so ESPN Analytics gave the Raiders a 16% chance of making the playoffs entering Thursday's game, but those chances have now fallen to 4% after the loss. The Silver and Black are 2-4 this season when leading by 13 or more points, while the rest of the NFL is 93, 15-1 in those games. All right, Stephen A. Smith joining us, RC joining us now. Stephen A., I'm going to start with you. What happened?
Hold on for a second here. First of all, it's great to see you, Christine. Welcome,
of course,
as always. Bart Scott, my brother, it's nice to see you back in New York instead of bragging about being in Miami. RC, nothing but love for you, brother. Exactly. But the headline for today's show, because of how we started, I was not late. I was here. It's technical difficulties, okay?
That's true.
No, I don't want to see no cameras from the blimp. I don't want to see anybody coming at me like, yo, how come Stephen A. and such? I was right here, okay? So I just want to make sure we clear, all right, so we can start off the show right. Now y'all can continue.
Yeah, there will be no video of Stephen A. running to the studio. He's already in studio.
No.
A little bit of technical difficulties.
That's right. I was here. I was right here.
Let's start with you on this one, since you're out in L.A. Is this more of an epic Baker comeback or a Raiders collapse?
Well, listen, I'm going to say a Baker Mayfield comeback. It's not the fact that the Raiders didn't collapse, because we understand that they did. It's what they do this year. It's what Josh McDaniels does. This is what Derek Carr does. There's no way around it, and that's something for them to consider. But the way we've talked about Baker Mayfield, I mean, just a few days ago, RC and I were on the air together, and we were talking about how Baker Mayfield's days are over as a starter. When you unceremoniously depart from Cleveland and you're looking for a job and you end up in Carolina and Sam Darnold and P.J. Walker are preferred over you, that's the beginning of the end of you as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. And lo and behold, for him to show up on just a few days' notice, not even knowing the playbook, and to do what he did with that 98-yard drive, that was something special. There's no way around it. And so you look at it from that perspective and you say it's really, really more about him. It's not to say that didn't apply to the Raiders, and we get that and we can get into that. But in the end, considering the way that he was talked about, the way it was lamented, what his state of affairs was in the National Football League as a former #1 overall draft pick, for him to go on such short days' notice and to show up on national television in a Thursday night football game and to do what he did. I shouldn't say national television. I mean, what do you want me to call it? What do you want me to call Amazon, all right? But he was there, all right? He was there on Thursday night football. At the end of the day. Streaming, okay? He was streaming, all right? At the end of the day, he showed up on a national stage and balled out when it counted. And he outplayed Derek Carr in the process. And I think that's what you have to bring into consideration to say it's about Baker Mayfield.
Ryan, you can go.
Oh, I get to go? Oh, perfect. Well, listen, here's the thing. To me,
season.
I got it. This is good. I like that. And, I remember you said you couldn't wait to play us, and then we beat y'all, so I should go first anyway.
Oh, that's disrespectful. Hold on. That's disrespectful. It is that week, too, now, son. Your little Nauru collar. Don't bring no smoke. Looking like T'Challa.
Hey, Wakanda forever, baby. Hey, when you think about collapses, most times, Stephen A. and Bart, it takes two teams to be a part of that, right? One team has to have the lead and do everything they could possibly do to lose it, like throw interceptions late in the second quarter, only complete 2 passes in the second half for 11 yards, and have a collapse where on the last play of the game, you show single high right away. So Baker Mayfield, who's only been there for a cup of coffee, knows exactly where to go with the football right now and can rely on talent and accuracy that got him drafted first overall. And so when you think about those things, it's like, yeah, it's a Baker Mayfield comeback. It's also a Raiders collapse. But we also have to think about some of the plays that Bobby Wagner was able to make in the second half, whether it's cutting Derek Carr off on the sideline when he's trying to get a first down, or getting into the backfield to get a stop on 3rd and 1, or jumping in the passing lane when you have a glance route that's going to go to Devontae Adams when he's finally off of Jalen Ramsey. This was a game that the Rams won as a team and the Raiders lost as a team. We're used to seeing the Raiders do this now. We're used to seeing Derek Carr become this quarterback at times now when Devontae Adams can't be the focal point of the passing game. We're used to Josh McDaniels looking lost in certain situations. Now you don't have Josh Jacobs to give the football to because he's struggling with the pinky. And so it was all of these things. But in the end, we have to say, Baker Mayfield, kudos. I don't believe that this says Baker Mayfield could be a starting quarterback right now, but it does say that this is a very interesting place for him to be. They asked me before the show Tuesday, do you want to talk about where Baker Mayfield lands? And I was like, absolutely not, because it doesn't matter. And then when he went to Los Angeles, I said, let me say something. You have an aging quarterback in Matthew Stafford who's beat up and banged up. You have Sean McVay, who understands how to make quarterbacks play at a different level than they've played at other times in their career. And you have Baker Mayfield, who is a #1 overall draft pick. And you think to yourself, this is a tryout to keep Baker Mayfield on this team next year as a backup, a tryout that may one day move him to the starter for Sean McVay in a place where he could very well reach his potential. This is very interesting, and I believe that last night is only the start for that conversation.
No, to your point, I think you have to give Baker Mayfield a lot of credit, right? Because me and Stephen A. has been more critical of Baker Mayfield. We've been getting at it, and, his wife has tweeted, Stephen A. came at me and all that stuff as well. But we got to tip our caps because you and I know how difficult it is to not only go to a new location, but also not know your teammates, not have chemistry, not know the checks, not know the nuance of playing the position as far as through the offense. When he got released or he asked for his release, we all assumed that it's because he was going to give it a shot to go out with the other, baby genius in Kyle Shanahan out in San Francisco, only to come to a location where maybe he needs a redshirt year. But I'd rather focus on, the fact that Josh McDaniels in his second chance at a head coach is failing miserably. You talk about the penalties and the bad play and the lack of discipline. That's something that's supposed to come equipped with a Bill Belichick disciple. And now you look at the fact that I think Derek Carr may have played his last year and season behind the Raiders, as we know that they have a out in 2023. So I think that for Josh McDaniels to save his job and to stay face, he's going to have to start off with somebody young that he can mold, because the experiment with Derek Carr isn't working out. And somebody has to take the blame for a playoff team that's not going to make it to the playoffs, but also look inept. If it wasn't for the Denver Broncos within this division, the biggest collapse and the biggest disappointment within the AFC West would be the Raiders. Somebody has to answer to that, and I think Derek Carr is the one who's going to have to walk the plank.
Yeah, I mean, when you Derek Carr and, you from a morality perspective, just as a human being the leader in the face of that franchise, particularly considering the adverse circumstances they faced last year with all that happened with Gruden and the Ruggs and everything in between. He was absolutely awesome, but you still got to go out on the field and perform. And, when at this point in time, Derek Carr is more visible for crying at a press conference than he is for playing on the football field this season. That's just a fact. The most memorable moment Derek Carr has provided to you this season is when he was emotional after they had lost a few games, and he was talking about how much it hurts and all of this other stuff. That's what it comes down to. But Bart, as an aside, Baker Mayfield's wife came at me. I don't recall seeing that. I never saw that. Did that happen? Did that
A couple
happen?
years,
I didn't see that, fellas.
a couple years ago, son.
Oh, a couple of years ago. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, Cleveland
I
days.
really haven't said much about him, and he's not in a position to say much back right now. But I mean, last night it was a good day for him. It was a good night for him, and I give him props for what he did on that last drive. There's no question about that. To just arrive there, it says a lot more about Baker Mayfield than anything else. But I can't blame anybody for looking at the Raiders right now, because you look at Max Crosby after the game and stuff like that. These guys are done. They really, really are. They don't understand how you could have a Derek Carr, Devontae Adams,